Yo, what's shaking, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Monday Overreaction Show, or the Overreaction Monday Show, depending on how dyslexic you might be. I'm Geoff Ketchum. That is Anwar Richardson, and this is the Orange Bloods Texas Football Channel. As you guys enter the chat room or you get settled into watching what will inevitably be a pretty long video today, do us a solid. Like this video. Subscribe to this channel. Get notifications. And by all means, support rogueshop.com, the sponsor of the Overreaction Monday show. Use promo code OrangeBloods. As you can see in the box next to me, Anwar is a proud user of the product, as am I. More of a cartridge guy myself, but there are a lot of things from gummies to, they have the suckers to Anwar, which is always a deceptive little deal because you could just roll around in public and nobody ever knows. And of course, you've got the salve that's good for the body and the joints and all of that stuff.
Got pre-roll and catch. You know what's something I got also? Lip balm.
Ooh.
Lip balm.
There's just nothing they won't think of over at rogueshop.com. Again, use the promo code. And the thing is, Richard's literally in the chat. He's support your own. He's one of us. He doesn't just sponsor the video. He participates in the videos. Anwar, it's a tough weekend on the 40 acres. It started with, technically it kind of started on Friday with the announcement that wide receiver Agiye Hall had been indefinitely suspended for stuff. The thing that everybody in the public knows is that there was a parking lock on his car that he tried to remove. He got arrested for it. I don't think people think it's that big of a deal, but he's a little bit in the doghouse. Then you had a scrimmage on Friday that, all things considered, wasn't inspiring, I think is a fair word to use, at least in terms on the offensive side of the ball and maybe the team as a whole. And inside of that scrimmage, we were able to confirm yesterday that starting wide receiver Isaiah Nayor and starting interior lineman, because quite frankly, they moved him around from left to the right side, and he could have played either, maybe even center. Junior Angelau, both of them gonzo from the entire season. It has left a bit of doom and gloom in the air for Texas fans going into the weekend or into this week, knowing that this isn't a team that's just super loaded with depth. And to lose two frontline starters in the span of 24 hours it's been a gut punch, to say the least. So with that setup, I'm going to hand the baton over to you, and your inspiring words for Texas fans today are what?
Oh, wow. Our sponsor, the Rogue Shop, will help you get through this 2022 season. Feel free to try any of the Rogue products that you're going to probably eventually need. Catch you in everything that you mentioned. We have a long show to go to. We didn't talk about the quarterback production and what that looked like. We didn't talk about the offensive line and what that looked like. So to me, Catch, I thought from a reporting standpoint was probably one of the most depressing weekends of reports that I can ever remember us having. Just one bad thing after another. I think listen, so there's an overreaction, which is the sky is falling, everything's bad, right? Now, your other overreaction becomes to Catch, though. This really becomes a thing that Steve Sarkisian and his staff, they've got to figure it out. This is what you're paid to do. You're paid to figure out and work with what you have. I'm not ready to put any built-in excuses, here on, August 15th or whatever today's date is. I'm assuming that, August 15th. I'm not ready to say, well, pack up the bags. He's not going to be able to do it. No, this is what you're hired to do. This is what you're paid a whole lot of money to do. You're paid to figure out these answers. You're paid to make it work. And yes, if you got nothing but 5 stars and everything working for you, it's easy to coach. But there's the other portion of it, right? It's, it's like the difference, Catch, between the wedding ceremony and the marriage. right? The wedding ceremony is great. And then you get into the marriage, and this is the things that you have to walk out. I have no
Spoken like a man that's done that before.
many times. So this is the marriage. This is what is going on. And so hold on one second. Hey, can you stop, please? Okay, you're making too much noise though. Thank you. Find something else to do. Sorry, it just he's dunking a basketball inside the house. School starts on Wednesday. A car will be brought to a slow roll, pushing all of them out very quickly. But yeah, man, like to me, it's going to boil. We'll get into the specifics of what the challenges are, but I'm not ready to say, hey, Sark, I don't know what to tell you. No, I'm ready to say, okay, Sark, what are you going to do, and how are you going to fix it?
Let's start with the injuries first, and we'll work our way backwards because you mentioned the quarterback play and the scrimmage. In a weird way, that feels like the least of their worries today. In a week from now, we may be looking at the totality of the quarterback situation, look back towards that first scrimmage, and realize there was more to unpack than maybe we'll unpack today. Although I feel like we're going to unpack the shit out of the quarterback position. But let's do the injuries first.
Okay.
We'll start with Isaiah Neyor. You know, Anwar, both of these injuries, it's so funny. I was thinking about this today. Neither guy is an All-American. Neither guy is, if you were going to name top 5 guys you wrap in bubble wrap going into the season, maybe one of these guys cracks the list, but it's not Jordan Whittington, or I meant to say Xavier Worthy or Bijan Robinson, or maybe even I don't know. It's not the most – neither of these guys made preseason all Big 12. I guess I'll just say it like that, right?
Okay.
But it still feels like a piece of the soul has been taken from the team because Neyor was supposed to be a supersized upgrade over – ultimately the Joshua Moore failed experiment from a year ago, right? I mean, Moore came into last season wildly inconsistent, doesn't even make it through the season. When Whittington was hurt, there was no outside receiver that really was able to take some of the pressure off of Worthy in the passing game. Neyor comes from Wyoming, where he just looked like that dude, like a guy that opposite Worthy could really do some damage for this team. We saw him in the spring game. He was the recipient of that long pass from Quinn Ewers that got everybody excited early in on that day. They have guys that can step in and be replacements, but it does feel like starting with his absence, the offense got a little bit weaker on Saturday, unless some of these guys who are on the 2 deep, your Casey Canes, your Troy O'Meary, who is still getting back in the swing of things, your Ajay Halls potentially, they really need one of those guys to step up because Neyor was going to be such an important piece of the puzzle this year.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the challenge that the offense faced last season was when Jordan Whittington got hurt, it really allowed people to focus in on Xavier Worthy. And as good as Xavier is, it's hard to carry a team in an entire passing game by yourself. And so that's kind of what he was doing. And so Isaiah was supposed to kind of take a little bit of that pressure off of him where he didn't have to do everything. And, guys can just focus on him. The opposing teams can say, okay, let's just get him locked down because we don't think anyone else can beat us. That was supposed to be kind of the equalizer that says, pick your poison, because if you go in one direction, the other guy's going to beat you, so on and so forth. And then to lose him before the season, to your point, it leaves some question marks because it just leaves a lot of unproven guys. Now there's guys with talent. Let's not get me wrong, and maybe to a certain degree, Tyrek Milton is somewhat proven. But of what's left, like to your point, Troy O'Meary, who's coming along, Ajay Hall, which if you are Steve Sarkisian, you probably lift that suspension today. I would think hey man,
it was indefinite for 3 days.
Yeah, and I I've done some thinking about it, Ajay, and who amongst us hasn't wanted to take a tie iron to a boot on our car and take it off? So, kids will be kids, and reinstate him because you need the talent. You've got Savion Red, who we've heard great things about in camp. Casey Kane had a good day, and you still have Brendan Thompson, the freshman. But what you just don't have right now is a ton of proven guys that outside of Xavier Worthy, and of course you still have Jordan Whittington. So you can't discount that. You still got Jordan healthy, you still got Xavier. So maybe it's not as doom and gloom. With a healthy Jordan Whittington there, Catch, and you just got to find one other person to step up. But losing him is a huge blow. Like, it's a huge blow to the offense. I think it's bigger to me than Junior's injury because you had a proven guy who was looking to go to the NFL at some point, and felt like began hearing positive results about him all throughout camp. So I think for me, it is a huge blow. It's not one that they can't overcome, but it is going to be a question mark going forward as to who steps in and takes that person's place, and can they be as productive as Isaiah was.
First of all, let me just throw a disclaimer out to everybody. What I don't want to hear in the next hour is that we're being too negative when you consider that the real headlines coming out of the day were that 2 frontline starters are out for the season with knee injuries. Forgive us. Forgive us if it's not sunshine at the top. Like, we can't control ultimately what the news of the day is, and the news of the day are these 2 major injuries. It will, and I think I can make a case that the angle out injury is actually the bigger injury, which may just be a way of saying they both end up being pretty significant for this offense. I'm curious now. I think going into the scrimmage, the general consensus would have been the best 4 receivers on the team: Xavier, Jordan, Isaiah, and then Tyrek Milton very quickly has put himself in a position where he was opening some eyes, and people started to say, this guy's going to have an impact on the season. What's interesting about him was that a few days ago, I looked at Tyrek Milton as the Jordan Whittington insurance policy. He'd been working on the inside at slot, and it felt like last year when Jordan got hurt, there was no one that kind of stepped in and filled that void. Now they have Tyrek Milton who can do that. But I wonder now if you lose your Jordan Whittington insurance policy because you've got to cash in your Isaiah Nayor insurance policy. And I think the coaches are going to have to, do we want our best 3 receivers on the field and we'll tweak what we want out of Tyrek Milton, and maybe now he plays X and plays on the outside? Or do you keep him where he is, know that your slot position has a really good 1-2 punch, not even including Brendan Thompson and Savion Red, who've also been working out from the slot? Can you depend on Casey Kane? It's hard for me to think that Troy O'Meary is ready. And I'm not judging him at all. I'm incredibly thankful that we're 2 weeks into camp and Troy O'Meary is still practicing. Like, that is a big win. So I'm not personally, I just don't feel good about asking Troy O'Meary to be ready to start when we're still at the is he healthy part of his career. I don't know what they do with Ajay Hall. We didn't do a video on this in part, Anwar, because it just felt like it'd be kind of crappy to do a video on a kid getting arrested. I don't think either one of us had an urge on Friday to do a breaking news report on that. But it needs to be said that it's more complicated behind the scenes with Ajay Hall than just the boot that was put on his car. I weirdly think the boot saved his career at Texas, because before that ever happened, Anwar, to pull the curtain back a little bit on this discussion, that Thursday night we were already having conversations about, like, hey, what's going to happen with Ajay Hall? Like, clearly there's a little friction there. And then the boot happened. And weirdly, the boot story is so funny because it's so relatable that there was like a groundswell of public support that can't be the thing that gets a guy thrown off the team. And I think maybe a hard conversation was eliminated because nobody wanted the boot to literally be the thing that causes a guy's life to change. But he's got to grow up a little bit at the end of the day. And boy, now they kind of need him to grow up because where there wasn't a huge need on Friday, there kind of is on Monday.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you talk about relatable, I mean, who among us that's been on a UT campus hasn't received a ticket from that parking enforcement? I mean,
I've had a boot put on my car.
Okay, like those people, or the parking enforcement, I don't know what their bonus system is, but everyone's hitting bonuses. Like, they are ruthless, and we can get into, you got to obey the rules, this and that. You have no clue to what degree these people are and how unforgiving they are and what a money racket it is. And, who amongst us hasn't wanted to take a tire and iron in it? If I had told you, hey, man, I got to let you know something. What? Alex got a boot put on his car, but he got arrested because he took a tire iron to it and tried to knock it off. Would you be like, that doesn't sound like Alex? You'd be like, oh, damn it, Alex. You wouldn't even second guess the story. You would say that sounds just about right. So,
I could say that was again. I think the boot, weirdly, I talked with somebody on Friday about this, and they were kind of dismayed at the near universal support. Think about when a kid typically gets arrested for anything, right? I mean, my God, there's a wide variety of things that can get you in the pokey for 24 hours. Typically, you get a lot of men, we're typically the ones who are commenting on message boards and social media about this. And we can get real righteous. Oh, it was drinking and driving, which is a terrible thing that you shouldn't do. But young people, stuff happens. Like, typically, I feel like the adults come out whenever an arrest is made, and you get get rid of that guy kind of juice. And one of the sources in the program that I talked to was like just dismayed that so much support was coming out in his favor over this. It made me realize, God, everybody really does hate UTPD. I mean, nobody likes tickets and, speed traps and things like that. But he's literally guilty of the thing that you're right. It's the most relatable criminal offense that I think because if you told me Ketch got arrested because there was a thing with a boot on his car, like, I can see it happening. Like, I can see myself being so angry because I can remember being there. It's like, wait a minute, I had one ticket, a ticket. It went unpaid for like a week. You got a boot. How hard are you looking for my car that you even notice that? Like, so I get it. And I think
they're absolute bastards.
And I think that what a moment for Ajay Hall, though, because it stopped everything else. I think he has to realize, like, as relatable as it is, it still happened. And now there's like this moment where it's like, dude, just play football, focus on football. You've got a chance now to have a really big role on this team. The whole direction of where his Texas career seemed to be going could change because of these events that all tie themselves together today. Like I said, there's no, I think, obvious answer for what they do now that they've lost Nayor, because Casey Kane, I don't think he's had a to be fair, solid spring. I think he caught a big pass on Saturday in replace of Isaiah Nayor when Nayor went down. But second-year guy that I don't know that anybody thinks is ready for that. They may have to move some things around to make this work. And I think it becomes a position all of a sudden where it might have been the strongest in the program a week ago. And now you're just hoping, you're crossing your fingers that it can avoid the injury bug the rest of the season because Nayor is just a big loss. He really is.
Okay, so yeah, I'm going to finish my thought, and I'm going to address what you had said. But as it relates to Ajay, to the point where we were hearing like he was having some challenges with the coaching staff. I think probably is the best way to put it. Where they're like you said, there was friction. There was some friction between him and the coaches that seemingly was coming to a head on more than one point, and for reasons that their own reasons, and we'll just leave it at that at this moment. Nothing criminal, anything to that effect, just those things. And so what the arrest kind of does, it's almost kind of like, all right, dude, you got to chill out. You got to relax, because you got too much to lose at this point. And, you got a kid, you've got, you got your girlfriend with you. Like there's too much to lose. And so to your point, when you start talking about the wake-up call, it becomes an understanding of, all right, let me put this thing in perspective, because now, while that's a minor thing, one more little thing becomes the thing that probably gets you kicked off the team. It's not like a bunch of, it's not just one major thing. It becomes a bunch of little things where people start saying, okay, you're just a little bit more headache than what you're worth. But again, the good part is, it's not felony offenses where you just got to say to yourself like, whoa, this was domestic abuse, right? This is a robbery where you're like, oh my God, like how do you overcome? It's basically a guy who just grow up and get mature. And if he can mature and grow up, you say to yourself, he'll be fine. But to your point, as far as the room itself, there's still talent that's in the room. You don't look at it and say to yourself like, damn, where do we go next? Like I get, this is where, like, again, we'll talk about injuries and we'll talk about this one specifically. There's still enough talent where, look, if you're Brendan Marion, everything sounds cool. The social media is great. The cowboy hat looks amazing. But this is where when I start talking about guys got to earn their paychecks, this is where you earn your paycheck. And this is where you got to say, okay, we got to make sure Troy Amiri is ready to go. You got to make sure Ajay is got his head screwed on straight and he's ready to go and contribute. Because we know Ajay's got freaky talent. Catch, we saw what he was able to do at Bam at times. So we know he's very talented. And everybody else who's in the mix, like they've just got to make sure you get those guys up to speed, because at the end of the day, Catch, what's in that room from a recruiting rankings perspective is still probably greater and higher than the majority of teams in the Big 12. Like, I mean, you have Oklahoma as close as Texas is, but everybody else in that room was highly recruited. Everybody else in that room was highly sought after. And so losing this guy, yes, major blow. It's tough. And they've got a couple of weeks to figure that out. But everyone else, like I said, I think that's going to probably be my theme for every injury we talk about. The staff has to earn their checks.
I don't disagree with you at all. So I just think about it from the standpoint of two things. One, they've got talent in that wide receiver room. So like you said, it's Brennan Marion's. This is what, you get paid $500,000 plus a year so that when situations like this occur, you're not shrugging your shoulders like, I don't know what to do, Coach. Nayor's out, right? Like, correct. I guess I'm going to go, hang out and watch the season from the couch. I think the issue is, I don't think there's an obvious right answer here. It might be that to them moving Tyrek, because Tyrek Milton did play on the outside some at Iowa State, so he has experience there. But I think they clearly think his best position is in the slot. So I think they're weighing several pretty good options and trying to figure out what the best one is. The best one might be when Ajay Hall is no longer suspended, to move him over and throw him into the competition with Kane and Omiri, and best guy survives and the offense is better for the little inner competition between those three. Again, and when thing goes, this also will bring up, Xavier Worthy as a commodity. If we're having a hard time figuring out who replaces Nayor, it'd give you an indication if, Xavier hurt his finger on a bass fishing trip and was going to miss a quarter of action, right? Like that's a quarter where it's not obvious who comes in and fills that role. We're having a hard time with Xavier, with Isaiah. With Isaiah Nayor, let alone better players. Let's talk about Junior Angelau for a moment. And let me make the case to you why this is at least on the level of Nayor. Even if I don't think Junior Angelau is as good of a football player as Isaiah Nayor. I hate to say this because he's a guy that I'm really pulling for. I hate to say this because there's still a chance that this guy ends up being a really good football player. However, I wondered if Jake Majors is a weak link on this offensive line for a coaching staff that wants humongous bodies. And they had been making Junior Angelau play enough at center during the course of camp that it's really made me wonder whether or not Junior Angelau starting at center was a viable option for this team. With him being hurt, that now is off the table. I feel like Jake Majors is absolutely your starting center at this point. And now you're really young inside. You're probably starting Hayden Connor at this point. And it's some combination of Cole Hudson and DJ Campbell. 2 freshmen, one of which we think is going to be next to a freshman tackle in Kelvin Banks, even though that's not official. Technically, Andre Carrick is still running first team left tackle. We don't really know what to make of Christian Jones at right tackle. Is he a guy that should lose his job? Should he be platooning with one of these younger guys? I mean, this is a line that just has question marks. And the most experienced veteran of the group, who it seemed like you could play at 3 different positions on the line, is now no longer available. And I think if you'd asked me on Friday who's the most valuable offensive lineman in the program right now, I would have said Kelvin Banks, because I do think he's going to end up being the starting left tackle. And by sheer definition, that makes him critically important. But if you'd asked me number 2 for the 2022 season, I might have said Junior Angelau just because of his ability to be an answer in a couple of different areas. And I was talking about this with Alex yesterday. It might not be part of the decision now they have to make on the offensive line is if they have concerns about Majors because of his size, they may have to make a decision at guard with Majors as a major piece of the conversation. Who helps Jake Majors with slip blocks and combo blocks and, when they're in their zone packages, who helps him with some of the things that gives him problems? And a young offensive line that we already knew was going to exist now becomes even younger. And they may just have to get to the point where pretty early in the season, they just go YOLO. It's just the youth movement up front, and whatever doesn't kill us makes us stronger. But now I could see a point this season where you've got 3 true freshmen, a redshirt sophomore, and a true sophomore as the offensive line. No, that's not. That's less than optimal, but it may be the way they ultimately proceed by the time they get to the end of September.
Once again, the 2022 season is brought to you by Rogue Shop Apothecary. To get through the season, use all of your Rogue Shop products that are available.
A gummy a day keeps the craziness away.
It's good. I mean, it was always going to be a concern, right, Ketch, what this offensive line looked like on a good day. On a good day, we were concerned about what this line would look like and how they'd be able to protect whatever quarterback is back there, presumably Quinn Ewers. And then you add in the injury of, Junior, it's the whole devil you know is better than the devil that you don't. And now when Junior's gone and okay, that kind of productivity is off the table. Now it's guesswork. Can this guy do something that at least okay, I got this. At the very least, I've got this. We're good. Now you're just like everything you were talking about, when you were talking about, Connor and Carrick, and what do you do with Christian Jones and Banks, who we feel pretty good about, and maybe there's a Cole Hudson, like all these things, these moving parts, and you're just wondering to yourself, what the hell are you going to do, Kyle Flood? I mean, I don't, and and Sarkisian said, it was last week, I would say it was on a Thursday, I believe, Catch. And Sarkisian said, like, they just believe in playing their best five as opposed to looking at depth charts. So, he's going to, whatever that best person is as a backup will get plugged into the spot, as opposed to the number 3 guy starting just because he's the number 3 guy on the depth chart and 2 guys went down in front of him. They'll take the second best guy and then put him in, insert him. So, we'll know probably this after today what that offensive lineup looks like. But there's not much they can do, Catch. And let me ask you this. This would be my question. Not much you can do from a starting lineup standpoint that's going to make you see, like, tell yourself, man, this team is ready to hit the ground running week 1. It might be such a situation, maybe mid-season they come together, but is there a lineup that you say if you put that out there, they're good. They're good to go?
When I was thinking about this last night, I was trying to think about this in a world where Junior Angilau is still on the field. What is Hayden Connor's best position? That ultimately, I feel like he's a guy that is definitely in the top 5. The question I wondered about with Connor is because of Hudson and DJ Campbell, would they like him at right tackle? Could that be a position that he holds down, and then you're able to pair him with Junior Angilau on that side of the ball, and suddenly you've got 2 young tackles, but you've got some experience next to them that can help them get through the battles. Now that Angilau's gone, Connor feels like their best guard. So now are you moving your best guard to replace the guy who's your most experienced? Whatever you want, think of Christian Jones at this point. He is the most experienced current starter on that offensive line, but he's not very good. And he wasn't great in the scrimmage on Saturday. And I don't know. This is where Kyle Flood makes over. We're talking about Brennan Marion, right? This is where Brennan Marion, cowboy hat and all, he's got to earn his money. This is where Kyle Flood has to earn his money, because every move brings a question or two. And if you do something different, that move brings a question or two. And whatever it is, I can't wait. It's a hell of a thing that they've allowed fans to come into practice tomorrow, because there will be a lot to take away with their personnel usage on the heels of what's just happened. We'll probably get some answers a couple of days in as to how does this impact who they think their best 5 was. I thought the whole thing about Junior Angilau moving to center was that maybe that helps them get their best 5 on the field. And now maybe I'm underselling Jake Majors, right? But he was just okay a year ago. The thing I think about Jake Majors now is that they're going to be really young at guard. You probably have to keep Majors at center because he's the guy that calls all the line stuff. And you probably could have given those responsibilities to Junior, no problem. But now you have to have some experience on a line where both of the guards on either side are very inexperienced. You need somebody who's going to make the calls along the offensive line. And I have to believe at this point that's Jake Majors. whereas it could have been Junior Angelau, and now that is just not an option. The offensive line to me starts to, again, look like one of these places where the season hasn't started, but I don't know how many more injuries that group can take, because we're already at a point now where we're going to be counting on a lot of young people. I would get a little squeamish at the thought of, like, hey, there's going to be 4 true freshmen starting. I mean, it makes me think the goddamn Alabama game should have been canceled, like I said, way back earlier this year. And you were like, you would not co-sign on that with me. I was like, you know what? Give them $800,000, reschedule it, play McNeese State or something like that. Don't do that to yourself. You know, it's hard not to think about that game right now with Alabama. It's just, you know, one thing's not like the other.
Wow. Breaking news from producer Blake. The AP Top 25 poll just came out, Ketch. Texas is not ranked.
That's probably right.
Yeah.
Nobody gave him a first place vote?
No.
Or is that 27th with a first place vote?
Wow, that's pretty interesting. So yeah, I'm gonna get to the same, but yeah, I guess we'll get into that in a second. But I was just retweeting that one out there. Catch, if you're Sarkisian, I know you talked about canceling the Bama game. You always talked about that. Do you think, because they sent out the thing about what the fan thing wasn't that on like Thursday or Friday? They sent out an email about, you know, the fans can come on Tuesday. In hindsight, I gotta imagine Sark is so upset about doing this fan thing, because we know Sarkisian doesn't want the media to know what's going on in practice. He's very, very protective of his state secrets, so to speak. And this is when you have a practice like this that's open to the fans. That's one less practice that he can really put a lot of things out there, work on a lot of plays that he typically would work with and within a closed practice setting. I gotta imagine, like, he's probably thinking to himself, man, Tuesday is going to be such a waste because we have so many other things that we need to work on. That's going to be hard to work on because he's not going to want to put anything out there for anyone to consume.
Thing is, like, who cares about the plays? We just want to see where guys are lining up.
Yeah.
And they're not at a point where they can just throw a padded practice away. I'm glad we'll get a chance to see it, though, because it'll give us a little bit of a firmer option of what they think. And this is no small matter. This is kind of a critical deal going into this season, how they fix that offensive line situation so that from game to game, the offense cannot just be okay. That's not the goal. Their pathway to this season being really, really good is the offense averages 40 points per game because of all that nuclear firepower, and that they can carry a defense that they're not sure about. To lose basically 20% of your offensive starting lineup, it just stings because it's the oldest. If it had been one of those freshman offensive linemen, pick a name, you just shrug your shoulders and go next guy up amongst the freshmen. That it's junior, it just means that all of that experience that you have, that you actually value with him more than anybody else is gone. And then same thing with Nayor. Was ready-made to come into this offense and potentially have 1,000 yards receiving. I think that's a bit much. I wouldn't have predicted that, but I can remember just 2 weeks ago that Worthy and Nayor you see a lot of these offseason, who's the best 1-2 combo in college football at wide receiver, and there's all these position group rankings and stuff. Worthy and Nayor were widely considered a top 5 wide receiver duo in all of college football. It stings to lose that. There's just no getting around that. Okay, we have to talk about the scrimmage. I mean, it's 40 minutes in.
You want to talk Roshan? You want to talk Roshan before we get into the scrimmage?
Oh, So much bad shit out there. Yes, Roshan Johnson, one of the best, a guy that Anwar and I can't sing the praises of enough. He's out, let's just say, till October. I think that's a safe one. I mean, he might come back the last week of September, but how much are you asking from him in his first game back? You're probably on an ankle injury, a high ankle sprain, potentially not wanting to overdo it there. The initial prognosis is a month. I mean, that gets us to September 15th. So maybe a little bit earlier than the beginning of October, but he's going to miss the early portion of the season. And just, God, you know what's funny, man? The Nayor and Engel out injuries are so impactful. I've kind of spent most of the weekend not even thinking, or at least the last 24 hours, not thinking of the Roshan absence a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's huge. I think it's huge from having a backup for Bijan, special teams. That's a guy that's a contributor. That's a guy that Steve Sarkisian identified as a leader on his team, as a guy who is a backup player. Now, can you lead from the bench? Sure, you can, but it's easier to lead when you're in the game and you're actually being able to tell guys what to do. And when you start thinking, when I think of Roshan Ketch, one of my memories of him was that LSU game a couple of years ago where, Keontae was kind of struggling a little bit and that staff leaned on Roshan, and Roshan became a tough runner. And that's where we knew, like, oh my gosh, this guy's tough. And, when you got that Alabama game coming up, like, you want a guy that is going to give you ball security, is going to give you those kind of guaranteed yards and still be a leader for your team. Not having that, even though he'll be back, 4 to 5 weeks, and we'll see how that recovery goes. Still, missing him, it has an impact. And we've heard that Jaden Blue did well as far as stepping in for Roshan, but Bijan, again, he can't carry it all. He can't do it all. You need some guys behind him. Now, there's a talented running back room, and we've heard that. I think Sarkisian talked about the talent that's in the room, and I think when at what point he said it was one of the most talented positions or positions he doesn't worry about. It was something close to that effect. But yes, even though these guys the other guys we talked about were season ending, I think missing Roshan for any period of time when the season starts is a blow.
Yeah. I mean, what's really fascinating is that the Longhorns made it through the spring relatively unscathed. I mean, no season enders. And you never know when a guy's going to pop an ACL, or you just don't, right? I mean, they can happen at any time. It could just, something like that could happen in the spring, and it gives you more time, I suppose, to prepare for it. That it was like bang, 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 injury in the span of an hour at the scrimmage, when they'd had such good fortune up until then, is, and I guess the good news is it's 19 days until the season opener. Better to happen now than the week of the first game. Better to happen now, even the end of this week. They still have almost 3 full weeks to get people ready, to get it figured out, to get ready for your first game against La Monroe. And then you attack it one game at a time from there. Maybe this is where we segue over to the scrimmage as a whole. A lot of the conversation, I suppose, centers on the quarterback play. If you're not on Orange Bloods, shame on you. Get your ass over to orangebloods.com and we had practice notes from the scrimmage within seconds of the scrimmage ending. And then ended up adding notes throughout the day. We can talk a little bit about that now. At the quarterback position, both guys threw pick sixes. Quinn Ewers threw a pick six at the very beginning of scrimmage. Hudson Card threw a pick six in what would have been red zone work. They both had some standout moments.
Hudson also fumbled on the goal line.
I was about to say Hudson fumbles in that same red zone package, if I'm not mistaken. there was a fumble that Hudson was responsible for. And at the same time, Quinn Ewers was sacked like 3 times. And that came either a day or two after Sarkisian. I don't want to say he went on a rant, but Sarkisian had very strong thoughts on what taking sacks at the quarterback position means. And, you know, he went on to say some of that stuff can be offensive line related. Some of it can be coverage related. But at the end of the day, the quarterback has to be able to get the ball out of his hands and not take sacks. And Ewers had a day where he took a few sacks. Add all of that bad up, they could share together. And then both guys made some plays. You know, I think Quinn Ewers had a deep throw to Casey Kane. Hudson Card had a play that in the red zone that people were talking about. Still, the totality of the quarterback position is that it's a major work in progress. And Anwar, if we thought Sarkisian was going to make a quarterback decision by Tuesday, it won't be because anything that he's really seen at practice has allowed for separation to take place. I don't think either guy is winning the job, but I think he knows who he wants to pick, who he's going to pick. And that may be what this decision comes down to at the end of the day is who does he want to hitch his wagons to? Because we head to the first Monday, you know, post the first scrimmage. I don't hear anyone really standing on the table for any quarterback and saying he's definitely the guy, and we've seen it throughout camp. If you're a Texas fan, player, or coach, you hope that happens by the time practices conclude and they get ready to go into the first game. But like I said, if they were a sign, they'd be an under construction sign at this point.
There's there's a couple of things. When I think of Quinn, there's the pros and cons of where he's at right now, and then we'll talk about maybe Hudson. You know, the Quinn problem or challenge, I don't say problem, but the Quinn challenge is when you're young and you've been so talented for so many years, and you've been able to get by on sheer talent, and sometimes you don't do the little things that it takes to be successful at this level. And that involves really getting into the film study, really diving into the making sure you're expert with the playbook and becoming a master of your craft. And I think what has happened with Quinn, and, you know, and that's, you know, delicately putting it, I don't think Quinn was trying to be a master of his craft early on. I think now he's starting to understand, oh, snap, I've got to get better. I can't, this is not high school anymore. I just can't go out there, roll out the ball, and it's always going to go well. No, these guys are good. And in order for me to get to where I want to be, I got to put in a little bit more work. And so I think that's what's going to happen. So I think the upside for your Texas fans is now that I think Quinn understands, like, oh, I've got to do more here because, I can't just do it on talent alone or my arm or my sidearm, and I can throw all these different things. There's another part of the game that he's got to work on. So, like, take a mental note because we'll come back to that catch. The other thing that, too, is the Hudson thing. You know, I just think, you know, one of the things I wrote about is, like, idealistically at this point in the competition, Hudson Card's been on campus for 3 years, second year in Sark's system. You want to see that guy pulling away. You don't want him to be in a competition with a young person that's only been on campus since January. And you want to hear more positive reports. The fact that we're not hearing that is definitely a little bit disappointing. So to your point, you know, he's got to make a decision soon. So does he go with the kid who's saying, okay, now I understand what needs to be done and who may have the higher upside? Does he maybe, you know, go with Hudson again? Neither one has blown the doors off, but, you know, you're hoping that something happens that makes Sark say, all right, this is what it is. But to your point, Ketch, he just may have to go with his gut at this moment, and then that's just going to be who he goes with.
Real quickly, kind of go through all of those things just quickly. Number one, on Quinn, I think you nailed it. I mean, I don't know that it can be said much better. I think it comes down to we've all been in situations where we've thought we've worked hard enough. And then you learn in a certain environment, like, oh, oh, that's what real hard work looks like. And I think you've got a young guy in Quinn Ewers who's always been so good, who's always probably thought, oh, of course I'm working hard. And then you get into practices as a freshman at this level, and you're like, oh, I don't know what that guy was supposed to do on that play in that situation. And maybe I would have if, oh, I got to work harder. I think it's as simple as that. It's a maturation thing that everybody has to learn. Most quarterbacks at the collegiate level are able to learn that in the shadows and not in the spotlight of a starting battle. Number two, as a guy who has flown the Hudson Card flag proudly, I might add, throughout the last 18 months or so, it's really disappointing that he's not better than he currently is. Because if Hudson Card was 75% of what I thought he would be even a year ago, I think he takes the starting job right now in camp. Ewers has afforded Card an opportunity to make him look like the mature, experienced guy. And Ewers is the super talented, but doesn't know what the hell he's doing freshman, right? And it hasn't played out like that. They both feel, and talking to people that get a chance to watch these guys on a daily basis, fairly even. And that's just not good enough for Hudson. And I think he's missed an opportunity because Anwar, I don't think I would have said in May or June or July that Hudson Card even has a chance in the quarterback battle. As it's turned out through the first half of camp, I mean, he ran with the ones on Saturday. He's had a chance. I don't think he's fully taken advantage of it yet. And if he wins the job, unlike a year ago, where it was like hotshot young guy who everybody thinks has NFL talent, here he comes. If he were, and I think Quinn Ewers is going to be the starter. But if in some universe out there, Card gets the start over Ewers, it will be because they don't think Ewers is quite mentally ready to take that on, more so than they think Hudson Card is just undeniable and we cannot deny him. And then the third thing is, all right, well, we called out Brennan Marion. We called out Kyle Flood. Said those guys have to get their guys ready to play. And this is where we've got to call out Steve Sarkisian and AJ Milwee out a little bit and say, guys, still 3 weeks to the opener, so no reason to panic. But you guys are the quarterback whisperers. Let's see some whispering. Because I think up until now, that position has not been a massive position of excitement through the first week and a half of practice. Those dudes are really talented. And, you know, I think when they eventually take off, we'll give the coaches a ton of credit. If at the end of the year, Quinn Ewers just dicing people up and throwing for 350 yards and 4 touchdowns every other game, we'll give the coaches their credit. In the meantime, they've got to see that position is performing better than it has.
Yeah, because what cannot happen is we can't have a quarterback battle that blows up in Sarkisian's face again during the regular season. You know, that what happened last year can't happen again. And yes, you know, we know his history and all that he's done and the guys that he's worked with and the guys that he developed. But that's good for your resume, right? And that's good for maybe give you hope. But it's all about what have you done for me lately? Like, that's the business. That is what this thing boils down to. People, the Texas fans, aren't necessarily concerned about what you did with Mac Jones or Tua or any of those other guys. They want to know, what are you going to do with these quarterbacks that you have here? What are you going to do with Hudson Card? What are you going to do with Quinn? How are you going to get these guys ready to go? And look, we clearly know Sarkisian is working with them and making sure that they, at least staying on top of them. But, there's certain things, like you said, there's room for growth. To be hearing in August that, Quinn is now starting to realize the importance of getting into the book more and studying more and things to that effect. Well, that's good. It's good that the light bulb is going off, especially after this live setting. You would have hoped, though, that he would have been pushed a little bit more in the spring, where he thought, oh man, that needs to happen. That needs to occur. Like, you would have hoped that it wouldn't be like now, where he's going to maybe potentially have to play catch up. And, and then from a Hudson perspective, you would have hoped that, all right, you guys have had him on campus this year 2. He should be head and shoulders above what's going on here. Like, what's going on and not going on from a practice setting. That's getting these guys ready to go. To your point, Ketch, we hit the panic button. But yeah, listen, if you're going to be the QB whisperer, you got to whisper to QBs.
Whisper a little. That's it. I'm not saying make a song. I'm just saying it'd be nice if after this next scrimmage is over, someone says, I heard some whispering out there at the quarterback position today. Oh, awesome. I've been waiting for it. Hey, correct. Is there any chance Sark names? So full disclosure, you're watching this video right now. And by the way, thanks to the 500 plus who are watching the video live on YouTube. Do us a solid, like the video, subscribe to the channel, get notifications while you're at it. Tell your mama, tell your friends, tell whomever. Any chance at all? Because Sarkisian meets with the media this evening.
Yes.
You won't be there. Jason Sukamel will be there covering the proceedings for Orange Bloods, which means this will clearly be the biggest and most important press conference of all time. The one that Anwar absolutely had to be at. Any chance at all he sneaks in a quarterback announcement today after this last scrimmage?
First of all, the only reason I'm not going to be there because I got meet and greet at my kids' elementary school. So I don't want people to think I'm just chilling.
Literally the one thing that could keep you from it.
Yeah.
You got to meet the teachers.
Yeah, it's family. I'm a single dad. So, I don't have support, so I got to go to, make sure that that's taken care of. No, I don't think there's any chance he names the starting QB today. I think Sarkisian has made it very clear this offseason that he just does not want the media to know too much about what's going on behind the scenes. And I think he told us at one point, like, we would know, but he would not necessarily mean he would tell us. I think he'll wait until the very last minute. Now, we'll know probably based off of practice reports who's getting the reps, but I don't think he says anything. I don't see him giving anybody trying to, he's a football coach, and they are by nature very superstitious. So I would say no.
Let's try to knock out a few of the super chat questions that we've had.
Okay.
And then we can go back to the scrimmage and talk about the different elements of that. And by the way, if you want to get your super chat questions in, by all means, now's the time to do so. We won't put them on the shelf like we did earlier in the show, where, just to be fair, we had to get through the injury portion of the ins and the outs and what it all means. Tom G says, what up, OB fam? What up, Tom? Catch, buy or sell. You feel better about the D after this practice report? Probably a sell, if I'm being completely honest. I just feel the same. And we've had a couple of people in the chat. And it's funny. Someone said, just Anwar, I want you to answer the question too. Someone asked me though earlier over the weekend, hey, show me last season's first practice scrimmage report so I can get a sense for like apples to apples, how either usual or unusual is this. So I copied and pasted. I went back through the archives and found our first scrimmage report from a year ago, and it did read a lot like this past scrimmage, in such a way that I don't think there's any reason to feel better about the defense right now. I feel kind of the same. I don't think they're going to be incompetent, but I don't know how much praise and hyperbole to speak out about the defense just yet.
I'm a sell on it only for that. factor of it. This is basically exactly the same things that we heard about last season. These guys did so good. Neither quarterback looked that great. They were getting to the pressure on the quarterback. They were killing the offensive line. What our reports was, no matter what line they threw out there, that defense was getting after them. And at the end of the day, what we realized is that this defense was ranked 100th in the country. And what we realized is that they were actually going against an offensive line that actually wasn't that good. So it's kind of hard to get pumped about it. And the second portion of that catch is this defense, for the most part, is pretty similar to last year. And really this whole team, when you look at it, with a few different components, it's pretty much the same guys that are last year. I got to look up this projected starting lineup versus one. It's probably going to be where you think catch 75%. Maybe from last year's starters. We're replacing Quinn with Casey. Ryan Watts kind of gets into the mix.
Baron Sorrell's probably starting at defensive end.
Yeah,
where he wasn't a year ago. But you're picking some selective spots. It is largely the same team as a year ago. One of the guys that on paper significantly changed last year's team from this year's team is Isaiah Nayor, which is one of the reasons why his injury is such a big blow. Anwar, I'm going to give you this one because Malik Murphy has been getting a lot of love really in the last 5 or 6 days. It's not even a buy or sell. It's just with the quarterback struggling, does Malik Murphy get a look?
No, Malik didn't get he didn't get a snap in the scrimmage, according to what we were told. So if you're not getting a snap in the first scrimmage, I don't see Malik kind of being in the mix. I've heard different things, and I don't want to give out state secrets that will have the entire staff wanting to show up at my house. But from what I've heard, it seems to be the focus is going to be the top 2 quarterbacks, with Malik being a guy that they develop for next year.
Just randomly, Anwar, one of the things. Go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Charles Wright could be a guy that you have to look out at maybe like the third option. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ketch. I'm just saying. He did play. Sorry, he did take a couple of snaps. He took a couple of snaps. He took a couple of snaps over on Saturday.
I got hit in the face with a rock. I'm getting myself back together. I'm sorry. And then Brandon Offerman says, do y'all have the name of the ref Barron tripped over? Johnny Barron apparently missed a scrimmage over the weekend. I have seen that at least one other site mentioned that it was because he tripped over a ref. No, I'm not going to be giving refs, names out. This isn't never. I was about to say, I'm not even going to say it. I'm going to get myself in trouble, and I'm just not going to say it. What I will say is when Sarkisian meets today, when he meets with the media later today, throw Barron's name into the mix as well. I think the anticipation is he's going to be okay, but there's a lot of injury stuff that Sarkisian will have to walk his way through. Just another one of those as well. Tom G also followed, just to get completely caught up on our super chats. Buy or sell, Anwar, I'll let you take this one, and then I'll answer it. At least 2 freshman offensive linemen start week 1.
Man, we got Banks kind of in there as one. I'd probably...
But he's not there yet.
Yeah, that's true. So I'd probably sell on it at this moment because I think you're saying 2. Like we said, we're expecting Banks to eventually get in there. I'm going to sell on that one, Ketch. What do you think?
I'm going to buy.
You're going to buy? Okay,
well, I'm going to buy that Banks does take over the left tackle spot.
Yeah.
And one of those guard spots has to be taken by a freshman just because of the numbers. Unless you're telling me that a guy like Max Merrill or Logan Parr is going to step up. And no, that's not going to happen. So I think it's by default one of those true freshmen whether it's Cole Hudson or DJ Campbell, have to start at guard. And then if you believe that Kelvin Banks is eventually going to take the left tackle position, which I do, I'm curious how much longer it takes, because that position's been a problem in scrimmages and in practice. So, we start talking about, again, players that had opportunities to put markers down both in the spring and early on in camp. Some of those spots on the offensive line fit that bill, and that hasn't happened. And I think that, you start getting the second week of practice and your inclination is that the young guy should be the call, then you should probably just go ahead and let the young guy be the call.
Yeah. By the way, is there more super chats, or are we?
No, we're caught up as far as I'm aware of. Oh,
cool. So we got to. I was going to say, so the Ohio State guy, we just took his $5 because he was being an ass, and we just don't put his.
Yeah, we took that Ohio State $5.
That's kind of funny.
Don't be a prick. Be halfway decent, and yes, we'll take anybody's questions. Record prediction now with injuries and quarterback struggle. Jesse says, "I'll take 2 watermelons to go, please."
So that's definitely a catch question for sure.
I'm still at 8-4. I have not budged. I don't know what it would take for me to drop down to 7-5. God, 7-5. It's a bad season. So I'm just I can't even speak that into existence right now. I'm sticking with 8-4. I've never really been itching to go higher than that. Unless there are more injuries. Because my whole thing about look, I wrote about this in my column. And again, if you haven't read 10 Thoughts on the Weekend, because you're not on Orange Blood, shame. This is a football team that here's what I want to see. 4 things. They're better in October than they were in September. So I'm not worried about Alabama. I'm not worried about any of those games really in September. Obviously, you like them to win as many as possible. But where my head is, by the time they get to October, they're better than they were in September. And when they get to November, they're better than they were in October. Then when they get to December and January, they're better than they were in November. Those are 3 things. And the 4th thing is that by the end of this season, you want to be the kind of team that nobody would want to play, right? Like, they're a scary team because look at what they did this week, and they could hang 50 on you if you're not careful, and whatever your little definition of a team wouldn't want to play you. But right now, Texas feels like a team that people want to play. And so and really this didn't happen a year ago. It's why last season was such a failure, I think, from a coaching perspective. This team did not get better as the season went along. It peaked early, went into a 6-game losing streak, and then by the end of that losing streak we're losing games that just flat out they should not have lost. We went from talking about, God, they keep leading ranked teams into the 4th quarter to walk-on players catching balls in the end zone at DKR to make you lose in embarrassing fashion. So this team improves month by month, week by week. It will mean we've seen good coaching. It will mean that we've seen the development of players. And I think it will mean that you can go into 2023 feeling like 2022 was a legitimate springboard. That is just not what this season is. The 2022 season isn't the year following that unbelievable springboard year of 2021. And typically, you have to have a springboard season. You don't just go, unless you're Dave Aranda and Baylor, you don't go from terrible to great overnight. Typically, there's a building season in between. That's what I think if you're a Texas fan, you're desperate to see. You're desperate to see that by the end of this year, the season wasn't wasted. The team got better each and every week. And by the end of the year, you can legitimately start saying things like, yeah, I can see this team competing for a Big 12 championship. Anwar, for me, people say that now, and there's no basis to make that comment. Oh, Texas should be one of the top 2 teams. They should definitely be in the Big. Why? What did you see a season ago that makes you so confident that they're ready to, let's say, double their number of wins in the regular season? I think a much more modest approach is the way to go. It's not fun. Nobody wants to say 8-4 is a pretty good year and might set them up to win 10 in 2023. But I think that's way more realistic than what we've seen. It's why when the AP Top 25 comes out today, Texas not being in it is not some slap in the face. It really isn't.
It's not, but were they ranked? I got to go back and look in their history. Were they ranked after Charlie's 5-7 season though? Blake, can you look that up? If you're around, Blake, can you?
Were they ranked for that Notre Dame? I don't think they were ranked for that first Notre Dame game.
Notre Dame, you don't think so?
I don't think so.
I mean, I always feel like they always are. So
they always are. You may be right.
I'm curious if this might be one of the first times in a while that you're there. Ketch, are you gonna look it up as well? Because I can talk, but
I'll look.
Yeah. Look, check that. I'm fascinated. Feel free to interrupt whenever.
Are you talking about 2015?
No, 2014 was 6-7.
And then they played Notre Dame the first game of 2015.
Yeah, so we'd be talking. Well, are we talking about 2016 then?
Well, that's the year they got Charlie fired. That was year 3.
Yeah, but I'm heading the preseason poll.
I know that's what I'm trying to look up.
Yeah, so it would be the 2016 AP preseason poll.
They were not in 2016.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
They were not in 2015. Let me look up 2016.
2016, yeah. 2015 would have been coming off of 6-7, right?
Not ranked in either game.
Okay. Well, that's not.
Way to go, Charlie.
It's not a badge of honor there either. Yeah, Ketch, I don't know. Like, when we're getting close. I mean, it's 19 days until kickoff. So, you and I will have to start doing our prediction stuff soon. I'm right now in the 7-5 to 8-4 mark, and I'm swinging back each way. And I can see there's just there's just a lot of question marks. It's not an insult. It's just there's just a lot of question marks for me, Ketch, and I don't know where to go with it. I think this could be a team that gets better as the season goes along, as they kind of grow and be cohesive. But going and starting off with the offensive line that you got to put together with a young quarterback that's going to be trying to figure this thing out, figuring out who's the playmakers on receivers, and then this defense, which has some question marks. I don't know if I'm ready to give Texas the benefit of the doubt in a lot of 50-50 games. So, can they seal the deal? Can they close the deal? I don't know. So I'm somewhere in that 7-5, 8-4 range, and would absolutely love to be wrong and doing a post-game show from Arlington in December. Absolutely. You can come. You guys can come on here gladly. And Catch. Well, I'll sign up for You Guys Were Wrong show if Texas gets up in the Big 12 championship, and we'll just sit here and you can just tell us how dumb and stupid we are. Bald-headed brothers don't know a damn thing. Whatever. I don't give a damn if they make it that far.
I'm with you. I want you by October 15th to have boldly booked your Big 12 championship game room. Because it worked. The one year you did it, the one year you were like, Texas is making the Big 12 championship game. They did. Yeah. So I would love in October for you to have to say, I've booked my room. Yes. Like that would mean that some good things happened. And some things to get excited for. Real quick, buy or sell. This is Tom in the Super Chat. By the way, thank you, Tom, for being such an active member of the Super Chat. Sark starts this week giving viewers most of the reps with ones if he is the starter in week 1.
You know what? Bye. Because you know what? He did that last year,
Yep.
right after the first scrimmage, and even though neither quarterback was that amazing, that's when he started going with Hudson Card. So I would buy that.
Another question in the super chat, this from MJ Allen 77. And I'm not sure how we're supposed to answer this question. Please give your chances for each of the following regular season win totals: 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. So I guess like a pie chart.
Yeah.
We have 100% of the pie chart that we're supposed to be working with, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, what do we think is the over and under? Proper over and over. Is it 7.5 now instead of 8.5?
It's funny. I was going to say 7.5 is the proper. After these injuries, to me, 7.5 seems to be the proper over and under.
So I'm willing to make that like 35% for each, which takes up 70% of 7 and 8. Take up 70% of the win totals.
Okay, so that leaves us another 30 to work with.
I think 6 and 9 are 10%. And I think 10 and 5 are 5%.
I can live with that.
That gets us to 100.
I can live with that. So essentially, I wrote it down: 10 wins, 5% chance; 9 wins, 10% chance; 8, 35; 7, 35%; 6, 10%; 5 wins, 5%.
Yeah. I'm comfortable with that. I don't know.
I'm good with that.
There may be someone that says, inevitably, I think some people will think the 9 wins has a chance to be higher. I mean, if you wanted to, I could live with 9. Seems like a lot to me right now, 9 and 3. But if you went, instead of 35-35, if you went 30 and 30, you could give that other 10% to 9. And so then maybe it's 20. So maybe it's 5%, 20%, 30%, 30%, 10%, 5%. But I may be overthinking the question at this point.
Still, it's a good question, by the way.
It was a good question. More, the super chat's on fire right now from Chris. Do you think Whittington moves outside to take place of Nayor? The slot talent seems to be deeper than X and the Z. Can I answer this one real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think they're moving Whittington. Mm-hmm. They moved Xavier Worthy outside last year in this same conundrum. When it was Whittington and Worthy on day one on the inside, it was Worthy that they moved to the outside. And I think in this situation where you're talking about Whittington and potentially Tyrek Milton, one of those guys going outside, I think the more obvious guy would be Milton over Whittington. I could be wrong, but to answer your question, Chris, that's where I come from.
Yeah, I think there's definitely enough on the inside where it definitely makes sense to move Jordan to the outside.
To move Jordan or not to move?
To move him.
So you would move him to the outside?
I would, yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, I would. If they go on the philosophy of, hey, these, we're going to play our best guys, then you play your best guys. And then, I think they got enough speed, from an inside perspective. Like, I think they're good as far as finding guys inside. I think you need to find someone on the outside. And I would try to see what Jordan can do out there.
I would just say this: of the two players, Milton has played on the outside at this level. Mm-hmm. And then 2, man, Jordan Whittington has been training for going on 4 seasons now to get healthy enough to stay on, like, to be in that one spot and to have one great college season. I'm hesitant to move him. I want him to stay healthy, but B, he's lived in that spot his entire career. I understand why you would. Mm-hmm. And it might be that that's just the answer.
Yeah.
But through a very narrow prism, I would keep him in the slot. I think it comes down to the coaches and whether or not there's a value system on those positions. And if you believe the X on the outside is a more important position than the slot, then yes. If you believe your outside is more important than the inside, then make the move. I tend to think that it's not, but interesting that this is where we have a bit of a – usually we're kind of eye to eye, and on this one, you and I have a slight difference of opinion. It'll be interesting to see what they do. I don't know that there's a wrong answer. We'll find out.
I mean, the only disappointing part about this preseason catch is that you and I have not been on the opposite ends of anything. So we have not had our annual battle standing on the table for certain guys. It looks to be an end of a tradition, Catch.
What you really needed me to do was to stand on the table for Hudson.
Yeah,
that's how you guys know that this isn't shtick that we do.
Correct.
Because if we were doing some old school first take with LeBron, there has to be a split of opinions. I'd stand on the table for Hudson Card and hammer on about, Quinn Ewers can't get his face in the playbook enough and he doesn't know the offense. No, we're pretty much in unison that we think Quinn's going to be the starter for all of the same reasons for the most part. And again, I'll just go back and say, as a guy that did, because last year we could ride the Casey Hudson debate. And we did show after show after show all the way into the season when neither guy at one point was functioning at a level that you wanted to, and the conversation still didn't die. This year, again, it's disappointing that Hudson hasn't really taken the baton and run with it because, like I said earlier in the show, I think the opportunity is in retrospect, right? And when I mean retrospect, last 10 days, in retrospect, there's been a bigger opening to maybe put your foot down and make a statement than we thought there would be. And that he hasn't done it, to your point, makes the itch to go to Quinn Ewers, I think, stronger. Because, God, second year in the system, all that talent, and he's still not definitely better than the guy who's been here 5 minutes. It's for a guy who likes to say, I think Hudson Card's going to go somewhere else eventually and have a hellacious college career, that doesn't speak real well to my point at all.
Yeah. I mean, it's just one of those that if he is that guy, he should be blowing it away. And the fact that we're still talking about the same things that kind of were struggles last season makes you think like okay, he may be good, but to be a quarterback position here in Texas, it's going to be required more than good. It's got to be a level to that. That's what you think that if you go to the upside. Last year, which was Hudson, over Casey. Well, if history repeats himself, and it seems to be kind of Sark's thing, he probably goes younger.
Today's practice is interesting. And then tomorrow, do they split it 50-50? Does one guy get more reps than the other? God, I don't know. Anwar, your connection's starting to fade out a little bit now. Why don't we go get into a parting shot and get the hell on up out of here?
Okay, good. Well, if my connection's fading, then it's Spectrum letting us know it is definitely time to ride out. Hold on one second. Ooh, what do you think?
Has to come back, Jesse.
Yeah, that's what I think. You got to get a medical red shirt and find a way to come back.
He's probably an undrafted rookie free agent if he goes pro after this season.
Yeah, there's too much money to leave on the table, and if you just got to hope you get some good NIL deals and give you something to make it through the next year. So I think that's what you got to hope for. Catch. 19 days. Catch. It'll be 19 days until the kickoff. So I mean, we're less than 3 weeks away. I think this is kind of ends up being one of the last week of the competitions that we go, and then I think you got to spend the next 2 weeks getting ready for the season opener and really starting to prepare for Louisiana. So I'm excited to figure out where everyone's going to be on the 2 deep. I think, like I said, by the end of this weekend, I think most of the questions should be answered. So get on Orange Blood. This channel is great. The YouTube channel is great. We love you listening. Get you all that kind of stuff. But to Ketch's point, on Saturday, when that practice ended, we had practice notes that were up there. And so this is great for, if you want to be the average fan, this is great. We love you. We love your support. We appreciate it. If you want to take it a step further in your fandom and know what others don't know, when you have these conversations with your friends and they're talking about certain things, you could be able to say, no. This is what I saw on Saturday while everyone was talking about it on Monday or Tuesday. Been doing a few days later, $10 a month. Like, it's you guys check your get on mint.com and see how many things you have subscription to. There's probably so many things that are being withdrawn from your account that you don't know about. It'll get something out of it that every once in a while. I'll get like, I'm subscribed to that. Really even know. Just check us out on Orange Bloods. You definitely won't regret it. You spent money on worse. I think you can spend money on some good stuff.
Occasionally, I'll spend twice on the same thing. Like, I think there's been a couple of apps where my wife and I both, not knowing that the other one has the app, bought the app. Yeah, sign up for Orange Bloods to help yourself be a better fan. I don't really have anything else. I feel like over the course of an hour and a half, we laid a lot on the table. I don't feel like there's really anything in my notebook that I absolutely want to get out. I would say stay tuned for later in the day. We'll almost certainly have a breaking news live show pending the commitment of Jordan Matthews, a Rivals 250 kid out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So thanks for watching today. Stay tuned. Sukamel and I may be going live here in a couple of hours or so. So until next time, thank you. Don't forget rogueshop.com, promo code OrangeBloods. Get the good stuff. Make sure you use the promo code OrangeBloods at rogueshop.com. And if you do use rogueshop.com, you'll potentially forget little things like making sure you say rogueshop.com at the end of the video. For myself and Anwar, Richardson, and Richard over at Rogue Shop and his lovely wife, thanks for watching.